Okay, we are live. Good morning, Facebook and YouTube family.
Good morning. Today we're going to talk about how you can go broke taking profit. What?
Right. Exactly. Like surprising concept, right?
Mm-hmm. And I think we'll focus mostly on Forex, but a little bit too towards the end on if you're selling your own products and services, how you
Yeah.
can get broke, go broke taking profit. What? I know it doesn't sound right, does it?
Right.
Hmm.
Now, this one, I am going to be taking notes because I want to be able to communicate this the same way she does.
Well, okay, so we're not going to use visuals today, right? But if you're in our private trainings, we do trainings with more visuals on slideshows and whatnot. But let's talk about trading Forex, okay, for the most part right now. Excuse me. So if you've never traded Forex before, this might sound like completely foreign. So we are going to use some terminology that is a little bit of industry jargon, but we're going to try not to the best we can when we can use something other than that. Okay. So when you are, first of all, when you are entering into any trade, whether you're trading, I don't care what it is, okay, indices. This is not applied to binary options though, because binary options is a completely different thing, and this is not. It's the risk management there is actually much harder. Okay, so we'll talk about that part later, maybe on another training or another show. But when you're entering into indices, metals, stocks, yes, you can trade stocks leveraged.
Yep.
A lot of people don't know that. Um, that one's for another training. Jot that down, Chrissy, because like
pro tip.
Right, pro tip, because I had a discussion with someone who I said you should read Trading with in the Zones, and she said that's for stocks. I'm like, no, it's not. But even if it was, you can trade stocks on MT4 anyway. So I digress. So it doesn't matter if you're trading, crypto, indices, metals, foreign exchange. It doesn't matter. When you enter into the trade, the only thing that you control, is actually two things. There's actually two things you control. Number one, the main one is how much you're willing to lose. Not how much you're willing to win, how much you're willing to lose. Okay. That's it. Right. And so because that's the main thing that you control, you want to keep your risk per trade 2% or under. 2% is like the max, right? The max. A friend of ours had her show, and she had someone on who's a multi-million-dollar trader. He only takes 0.25% max, right? Mm-hmm. That's his rule. But 2% max. If you're risking more than that, even if you do it once it can blow your whole account. Like, I'm just because one time I'm going to put in I'm going to risk 5 times as much as I normally risk. And that's your loser. You're going backwards probably months to try to build your account back up. So 2% max first off, but here's where we see so many people go broke taking profits, and shout out to Pat Kenny for really, teaching this to us and really pounding it into us on the IM Academy platform. Okay. If you are trading, let's say I'll make it easy. Let's say you enter a trade and your 2% risk is $10. It's 2% of your account is $10. Okay. Then the minimum that you are trying to that you want to see with a winning trade is $20, at least double. Okay. A 1 to 2. So what happens a lot of times is, so you're risking 10. So if you lose the trade, you're with me, you lose the trade, which happens. It's part of it. It's fine. Exactly. You're going to lose trades. Nobody can not lose trades. It's just, that's the way it is. You lose $10, but if you win the trade, you would win at least 20, if not more. A 1 to 3, you would make $30. A 1 to 4, $40, right? And so what we see is people either, number one, not even looking at the risk to reward, which is huge. And you also control that. You don't control if you win the trade, but you control if you only enter trades that have at least the potential to go 1 to 2. Okay. That's minimum. right? Some people I know, they only get it into a trade if it's a 1 to 25.
Yeah.
So they take only a few trades, but man, they can lose like 20 sometimes and still be in profit. Okay. So when you enter a trade, here's what happens for a lot of Forex, not just beginners, advanced people do it too. And they're wondering why they're getting good setups, but they're not really increasing their account very well, is because number one, they take profits too early. Okay. So they think, oh, because we've heard this, right? You can't go broke taking profits. Yeah, you can. Because if anytime you take profits before the 1 to 2 hit, you did not actually enter a 1 to 2 trade.
Exactly. You're messing up your risk to reward.
Mm-hmm. So when can you take profits? Well, first of all, if you analyze the trade and it does not at least have the potential to pay 1 to 2 with your analysis, it's a no enter trade. You don't enter it. It doesn't matter how good it looks. It doesn't matter if it's in the sweet spot. It doesn't matter if it's in the supply and demand zone. It doesn't matter how good it looks. You just do not enter it. It needs to be a hard rule inside of your trading. If you use your tool on TradingView and it says it's a 1.89, that's not a 2.
Right.
It needs to be a 2. Okay. And don't wiggle it around and try to make it do what you want it to do. If it's not a 2, it's not a good trade. Okay. It could be a winning trade, but winning trades don't necessarily mean that you're going to not get, tanked in your account just because you win a trade over and over and over again. If you're not at least taking 1 to 2. So here's the other thing. Let's say you enter a trade and it's a 1 to 3 or a 1 to 2.5 or a 1 to 4, anything over a 1.2 or a 1 to 2.
Mm-hmm.
When can you take, excuse me. Oh my goodness. Partial profits. I don't know where that came from. When can you take partial profits? When it hits 1 to 2.
Exactly.
Then you can take partial profits off of the table because you've at least taken profits at the 1 to 2. All right. And then you need to move your stops up probably to break even at that point or whatever. Mm-hmm. Right. That's the other thing. And this is so weird. And I know Christina and I have both done it. And I also know that we see people doing it. People will stay in a losing trade till it hits the stop loss with no problem.
Right.
But it is hard to stay in a winning trade. You start seeing it's blue, right? Blue is a good thing, right? Blue is a good thing on our phones. It means the trade's in profit. And it's like, oh, I got to take that profit out. What if it goes back to 0? It's fine. You have to take your hits if it goes back. If you see it go into profit and then it, you're like, but I was almost there. And then it went back to my stop loss or it went back to break even. If I knew I should have took those profits and I should not have listened to the Pip Sisters. That's how you go broke taking profits. But for some reason, people have no issue taking their stop all the way to the end of the stop. And I've seen, and I did it early on, I don't do it anymore at all. They'll widen their stop loss.
Like,
let's just give it a little more
conversation.
Yeah, tell us.
Like the thing that, okay, so we will go into binary options in a later podcast, but the thing that I appreciate about binary options, the way that my team and I are trading, is the platform that we use does not give you rollover. Rollover is the equivalent of moving your stop loss in MT4. We want you to understand that you can control the risk, but you have to be okay and accepting the amount of money that you are putting into the market that could potentially be lost. Okay? Because if you are okay with that, you're good with the risk to reward, then it's a possibility. Sticking with our $10, I could lose this $10, but that's worst case scenario. Best case scenario is I double it, right? But you have to be okay with that. And you have to be okay with not babysitting your trade, because that's what helps you get into those bad habits, right? You can get help in the wrong direction, right? So constantly looking at your trade after you've spent this time doing your analysis is unnecessary, right? If you trust your analysis, you trust your risk to reward because you did it right? Walk away. You set everything and walk away.
One of the first trainers that I ever had, like when I very first started, he taught like not to even ever move your stop loss. Like he did not move his stop losses to break even ever. It was you ride it to TP or you ride it to stop loss. And you know what I like about that? It's easy.
Yep.
Like
Less
it's
work.
just right. It's just easy. It's like, when should I move my stop loss to break even? Right. Because now it's a risk-free trade and all this kind of stuff. Some of those terms kind of bother me a little bit now that I've gotten more advanced and I've been growing my account much, much, much more consistently, because those are things that scared people do.
Yeah. Yep.
It is. And I know that sounds counterintuitive. Thank you. I'm just having all kinds of interesting things going on in my brain today. So yes. Yeah, right. Right. Plus we've got so much stuff going on. Plus I slept on my face funny this morning or something. It's hot and everything. But yeah, here's the thing. If you are a Forex trader, you can go broke taking profits. It is hard for people, especially newbies, to actually stay in a winning trade. Yep. Because you need to ride it to at least the 1 to 2, if not the TP. Right.
You get that euphoria feeling like, oh my goodness, I'm happy. And then when you're happy, you want to stay happy.
Right. And if you're going to bring it to like a break even point, which is fine. I do that. Okay. Yeah. It needs to go along with a set of rules that you have for when that's going to occur, because I've seen people lose money as well when they shouldn't have, because they didn't let their trade breathe.
Right. Like, just to give you guys an example of like what we're talking about, when I'm in a trade and it's winning, I have a specific amount of pips away from my entry that price has to get to before I will move my stop loss in profit plus my spread. Because at that point it's risk-free, right? Because I've covered the cost of being in the trade. But only once the market gets to and closes at that specific number of pips, that specific area in the market, will I move my stop loss, right? So it's like once you create the rules for you based on how you trade, because everybody trades a little bit differently. But once you create your rules, stick with those rules and understand we are all about pivoting. If you've tried out your strategy and you've tried out these rules and you need to make adjustments, just make sure that you're giving yourself enough time to genuinely try out the strategy that you're doing before you start changing things.
Try it in demo first.
Yes, please.
Demo's not perfect because it doesn't move exactly the same as live charts, but it does give you an idea or a place to start testing out your strategy or making adjustments to your strategy without risking your real money.
Yep. Like, demo is a priority. Demo should be done before you even dream of putting $1 into the market of your live money. And like you guys will hear us talk about trading in the zone. Trading in the zone for me, if you have not completed chapter 11 2 times in a row, 2 weeks consecutively, meaning you understand your strategy, you are following your rules 2 weeks in a row, then I personally feel like you should not be jumping into a live account. Okay. Like, just at least make sure you follow your own rules before you start putting your live money in.
Think of it like going to school. Okay. Because that is what you're doing when you come in and you're getting educated in the Forex space. If you went to school to be a doctor, you would not be operating on people for many years. Right? So let's just say for year one, you would be in class learning, and even when, even if you take it down to, something maybe not that 12 years to be a doctor, right? Or whatever it is, but something even simpler, you're not going to go in and, start doing what you're doing. If you want to become a teacher, they don't have you teaching in school day one of your classes. Right. That's some part of like your internship as you move forward in the education, where you actually go into a live classroom and do work in a live classroom. So it's no different here. And people want to put their money in right away. I know I did. And I did. Right. Because they want, and for me and Christina as well, our demos are live money, but they're like $50.
$50 max for
if
me.
I want to practice on something, it's like $50.
Yep.
Only because I want to have the emotional experience, because that dollar I risk is still my dollar. It's still my real dollar. So like I want to keep
my chips.
Yeah. You want to keep that emotional thing in there. But what if you're someone who's coming into the space with such a small budget that $50 is going to be your starting point for a live account? That's not acceptable then, because you're going to practice on that $50. It's probably going to be gone in a week. And then you don't have it, right? So you got to think about that.
Like that was my situation. Like when I first came in, I came in with a $50 live demo account, right? Live demo, right? But after I had gotten my rules down and things like that, I learned I didn't need to put more money into my account, because if I couldn't double my 50 to 100 and double my 100 to 200, I had no business putting anything else in. So my very first live account and demo account was $50, period. So when people say like, you can't, if you are consistent in repeating what you're doing, you can build from anywhere.
And you know what else I had a challenge with too, when I was using a really small account when I very first started, was so I'm entering a 0.01, right? Which is 10 cents, right? I could not practice without bigger risk, which I do now, but I couldn't practice taking partial profits.
Yeah.
So now I at least put a 0.02 in, so that I'm getting in that that whole
take some money off the table.
Yeah, the whole RAS about when do I take partial profits and getting out. I started that a while ago, but I still start with this very small account, $50 or $100, right? And so, and that's just that's live demo. But if that's all you have to start an account, then don't practice on live money,
right? And we actually, once we get into the week where we talk about crypto, I'll tell you guys how I got my $50 for my live account for free. So it wasn't my money, sort of. It was money that I got for free that I then used to trade. But understand too that we are profitable consistently, but we are still learning.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, one of the things that I teach my team is I have 6 different accounts, 2 for everything that I trade. So 2 for binary. I have 2 for Forex. I have 2 for crypto. And it's because one is what I call a push button account, very small, minimal balance, but it's for me to test things, test my theories, like to put my little thinking cap on, but sometimes you want to test it out in the live market. So understand that it's a possibility for you, or it's a thing for you too. You can have multiple accounts and use those accounts for different things. One of the things that Christy taught me, I get to Christy teaches me stuff like y'all don't even understand. One of the things that Christy taught me was about my FX book.
Mm-hmm.
I love my FX book because when you link it to your MT4 and you're getting into the habit of how you trade, it actually tracks a lot of the metrics that you wouldn't even think to track. Like you'll find out if you do better in buys versus sales, right? If the strategy that you're using to take profits is a good one or not. Like, do you actually end up losing more trades doing it early or not, right? Maybe you need to change the time frame or what you're doing, but it breaks down and stores all of that information for you to go back and look at. So I do definitely suggest when you're beginning, learn risk management and to hold yourself accountable. Link your account to something like my FX book so that you can now you can track it, but you have the things that you might not think about tracking as well.
I love my FX book because that's that if you're using it beginner or advanced expert and it doesn't matter what level, I don't see you're like, wow, I've been trading for 6 months and 85% of my wins are on Euro USD and I lose most of the time on USD JPY. What a simple fix. Stop trading USD JPY.
Exactly.
Or stop taking, if you're like 85% of the time you win sells and 40% of the time you win buys, don't take buys anymore. You're not seeing them the same way you see the sells.
Exactly.
That's what, you know what I mean? So it's really, I love it. I love it because it definitely gives you way too much information as well. It's full, like, don't go in there thinking you got to understand all the metrics in there. Just pick a couple that resonate with you and use them to analyze your trade. There's stuff in there I don't even understand what it does.
Right. What I'll drop to inside of this video on Facebook and on YouTube. I track my trades 2 different ways. I have 3 different ways. The way that we were initially taught, which is through our physical journal. I actually have a digital journal, like on Google Docs, and I have a digital journal inside of my Trading View. So I'll drop some information for you guys with this video so that you can see like a couple different options for tracking, not only using your MyFX book, because like we were talking about the other day, I'm a visual kinesthetic learner. So I need to see the movement on the charts. So I actually take screenshots and journal them and put the little paragraphs next to them. So I'll make sure that you guys get access to that information as well.
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking like what we might do is we might create a Facebook group, and those of you who are in there can get some of this extra little sauce, because it's then that we can like keep it all in one place where it's like, okay, this section is for Forex, right? So yeah, Christina, I'll have to talk about that. I'll make it easy for you guys to get access to things and go back and get the information and not have to sort through necessarily our YouTube or our Facebook to find it.
Make sure that you're signing up with the newsletter, because the link for the Facebook group will be in there.
Exactly. Surprise.
So, www.pipsforbrunch.com. Okay.
Now, I just want to pivot for a few minutes because you can go broke taking profits spills into other areas. Okay. Not just Forex. All right. Mm-hmm. If you sell your own products and services, you could go broke taking profits. But yeah, let's talk about physical product for a minute, just because the story I'm going to tell you. So my dad has a store in the mall for years and years, a frame shop and art gallery. So if you ever need your frame fixed, I can do that. I fixed Howie's frame when I was out there for him. Anyway, when you tell people certain things, skills, they're like, oh, could you look at this? Right. So there was other kiosks in the mall. And I remember this one lady had a kiosk in the mall and she was selling some little statues and things. And she was really struggling. And I remember my dad having a conversation with her, telling her that she didn't have her product marked up enough. But she's like, but I'm selling a lot of them. He says, it doesn't matter. Your profit margin isn't there to be able to do all the things that you need to do as far as like paying the rent and right. And, all that stuff. If you have an employee out here, she usually managed herself mostly, but if you have digital products online, right. Or whatever it is, like information products or something like that, what you don't want to ever do is discount your products. I know that we've all seen, and I don't mean like, okay, what I mean is you don't want to discount them later. Let's put it that way. Right. So if you're going to give a discount, you give it up front to the action takers. I like to reward action takers with bonuses, with discounts and things like that. Right. And you don't want it to be a false thing where, okay, it's $97 normally, but I'm giving it to you for $47 today. And then 3 months later, they find out they can still get it for $47. No, it needs to be real, a real thing. But what I'm talking about is when you have products for sale and then later on you decide you're going to discount those products because you think maybe you could sell more or something like that. What you do what that message is, I guess I'm having a hard time with my brain today. What you're projecting into the world is that your product really was never worth that much to begin with. Right. And so you end up with less kind of sales over the time. Now, what can you do? Pro tip, if you have digital or information products that they've kind of run their course, right? And that's maybe why the people that are on your channels and in your mailing list, the people that really wanted to buy those have bought them. And now the sales are diminishing. You can now take that course and offer it as a free bonus along with another course, right? So instead of just discounting it. Oh, or, bundle it up with something else and repurpose it
Yep.
in that way. Right. And so, we do trainings on this stuff inside of the Pip Sisters, but you can go broke taking profits by simply not asking enough money for the products and services that you have to begin with. You want to price things out in a fair way, but also, in a way that isn't cheapening what it is that you have, right? Or having people have this mindset like, oh, it's if you discount something every 3 months, what's stopping your customers for saying, oh yeah, I'll just wait till she discounts it again.
Yep.
Which is in another month. She does that every 3 months, right? Yep. So remember that when you're selling your own products and services. So if you're going to offer a discount, it should be in the beginning. Your product should cost more later, not less.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you can go broke taking profits. You definitely can.
See, learned a lot today, right?
Mm-hmm.
But today, this is a pretty short one because it's to the point, Like we want to make sure that because this is our Forex week, you guys understand a lot of the ins and outs that a lot of us learn later on through our journey. We want to make sure you get this information up front. So do us a favor. Don't forget to share the information if you think others can get some value from our content. Okay.
And you know what? I think next week we're going to do financial tips you didn't learn in school.
Awesome. Okay. Because we've been in some rabbit holes.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah. Yep. So look out for next week's content. Don't forget to go ahead and subscribe to the Pips for Brunch newsletter. That way you're getting access to some of the exclusives that we don't go over on our podcast. Okay.
All right. Sounds good to me. Those passive income profits, sign up for the newsletter. We do throw a lot of stuff in that newsletter that we don't hear.
Right. But that's going to wrap us up for today, guys. See you in the next video. Bye.
Bye.